Welcome back. Nortel Networks reported strong third-quarter numbers on Tuesday. Net earnings from operations jumped to $380 million U.S., while revenue overall was up 30% compared with last year. Nortel CEO J-Roth joins us now from head office in Brampton, Ontario, to talk about the earnings and the challenges ahead at Nortel. Good morning, Mr. Roth.
Good morning, Howard. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Thanks for joining us. So you had a great day yesterday. How are you going to sustain it?
Well, we also booked a tremendous order input during the quarter, record for us, so much stronger than earlier quarters. So it's really set us up for the balance of the year, for the fourth quarter. I think we talked yesterday that we were sold out in many of our product lines during the third quarter. Demand well in excess of anything we had forecast. We managed to double production in many areas, but couldn't go much above that. We're going to do better in the fourth quarter, so I think we'll catch some of that up.
There were reports of some supply problems that held you back a little bit. Could you explain that?
Yes, demand for a number of our products have steadily increased during the course of the year. You know, we're a leader in fiber optic systems, and capacity demands for fiber optic products that we sell, we're the leader in this area, have just grown steadily during the course of the year. We've seen doubling every quarter in some of these areas through the course of the year. And while we've ramped production, we've just overshot what the capability of our systems has been. So we're in a catch-up mode right now.
So fiber optics, are fiber optics in and switches out?
Well, switches are still in the network, but what's really happening is we're putting far more traffic through the network. Networks today now are carrying data, and along with some voice, but data has completely swamped the voice traffic in the network. And data traffic has been growing at 30 to 40% per year ever since data started to be measured. With the internet, this is accelerating. In some cases, it's much higher than 40% per year. So our optical business, which used to truck along with, let's say, 3% growth per year, is now having to run at 40% increase in demand each and every year. And with the internet, that's going to explode.
And of course, this brings up the Bay Network's purchase. Some analysts are saying it didn't do as well as it should have this past year.
Well, the Bay acquisition really gave us a number of technologies that we wanted to use with carriers. And the growth that we've seen in Nortel in this past quarter was a 43% growth in our carrier business in the United States. A lot of that is due to the technology we took from Bay and embedded in our carrier products. So it's paying off handsomely for us.
So you're happy with the Bay purchase?
Absolutely.
And you feel you paid the right price?
Well, it looks like a bargain now in retrospect compared to some of the other deals that are going down.
Okay. Let's move on to Lucent, the big competitor south of the border. What do they do better than you?
Not much. Pretty good at marketing, but if you look at the results, we grew 43% in the carrier space in the U.S. last year, well, in this last quarter. I think that's double their numbers. Enterprise are about equal. So that's pretty tough competition.
But there must be something you like that your competitors do, and there are a few of them, that you'd like to emulate or do better.
Well, we're certainly looking at how we can improve. You can see that we're rationalizing our manufacture, taking an approach much more similar to what the networking companies do. The people we're trying to emulate are not companies like what Nortel used to be. We're looking more at what the networking companies of the future look like, and that's what we're starting to emulate.
So you're not looking at the Lucent, you're looking at other companies?
That's right.
Which ones?
Well, Cisco's a good example. And there's a number of companies like them that we really admire from the point of view of how their industry moves, and we need to move a little bit more like them.
Let's just talk a little bit about this issue of the TSE weighting of Nortel now. It's coming in at around 11 or 12% weighting on the TSE, and of course, as you know, this poses some problems for mutual funds, and there may be some selling as a result to stay under 10%. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, it is a problem. You're quite right. Our weighting is now over 10%, and if you think of the BCE content of Nortel, you know, Nortel owns, BCE owns 40% of Nortel at this point, about 38% actually. And if you add that block in, then Nortel really has an impact on the TSE of about 14%. 11% directly and another 4 points through the BCE weighting on the TSE. We're becoming a big part of the Canadian industrial economy.
Now you raised BCE, and there's been some talk in the press the last couple of weeks about how BCE may divest itself of Nortel. What's happening with that?
Well, you really have to talk to Jean Monty on that point, but certainly the fact that the BCE has become almost a tracking stock for Nortel is an issue for BCE.
How would it affect Nortel if BCE divested itself of you?
Well, Nortel now is a very large corporation. Our revenues this year will be about over $30 billion Canadian. That probably make us the single largest company in Canada. I think the only one that will come close will be General Motors Canada. In terms of market cap, we're well over 100 billion Canadian. We broke that benchmark. We're the only one to make the Fortune 500 list globally. And I think today our market cap is probably more like $115 billion Canadian. So we're a strong standalone company in our own right, and I think it's time for Nortel to assert itself that way.
Okay, well, there was also a report this past week about the possibility of Nortel opening a new chip plant in the Ottawa area. Is that going to happen?
Well, we're looking at a number of locations. Certainly, we have a lot of skills in Ottawa we could build upon. The chip plant that we're talking about, foundation for that technology is out of our facilities in the UK at this point in time. And we talked about our supply issues on optical. These are some of the components we need in our optical systems, and we have to basically clone the facility we currently have in the UK. So we're looking at our options. Ottawa certainly is a locale that would make a lot of sense for us.
What about the brain drain question? You made a lot of headlines in the past year about the tax rates in Canada and so forth, and hinting that Nortel may move because of this. What are your thoughts on that now? Well,
the big issue is that there's a huge incentive for basically people in the upper income. And a lot of our jobs that we have in Nortel basically pay very well. And there's a huge tax differential now between the take-home pay that somebody would experience if they had that job performed in Canada versus they performed the job in the United States. And I think the government really has to pay attention to the fact that a lot of upper-income jobs are moving to the U.S. And this is going to reduce the Canadian tax base in time, and is going to basically impact the standard of living that we all enjoy here in Canada.
But Nortel is going to stay?
Well, Nortel's staying, but a number of our people are moving to the U.S., and we're not going to stand in the way of that. We'd rather have them work for Nortel someplace in the world rather than lose them altogether.
Let's just talk a little bit about what you were mentioning earlier about the explosion of data moving. When did the light bulb go on in your head? When did you see the future?
Well, we made a big investment back in, I guess it was about 1993, to pull forward the development of our high-speed fiber optic system. We could see that these things are quite predictable because they've been going on for decades. We could see that data transmission was going to overtake voice transmission in the networks that we build around 1996. And we could see that because data grew 10 times more rapidly than voice, that the rate of consumption of our transmission products would increase by a factor of 10. And so we pulled forward the development of what we call our OC192, which is 10 billion bits of information on a single laser over a single strand of glass. And we introduced that product in the fall of 1996. Now, here we are in 1999, 3 years later, and no other competitor has been able to duplicate that product. That's given us a commanding market lead in market share. Since that time, we have continued to double the capacity of our systems roughly every 9 months. This is very fast pace for our industry. So today, for instance, last week in Geneva, we announced that by 2001, we will be putting 6.4 terabits, that's a million bits, over a single strand of glass using our technology. That prediction has proved right, and that call that we made has led to Nortel having a very strong position in fiber optic technology worldwide now. One last question, sir. Are you still buying used parts for your 66 Jag over the net? Well, it's in pretty good shape now, so I moved on to other things. Last day, my wife and I bought some oil paintings over the net. Okay, sir. John Roth from Nortel. Thanks very much for joining us. My pleasure.